This is the Tuesday Live Show coming at you each and every week, and today's topic is getting personal in business. And I have something personal to share, something that's big in my life, and it's also a great segue into getting personal in business and the value of it, how to do it. Some people go back and forth on whether they should do it or not, etc. And I'll share what I've done, how I operate it with my business, and why it's important as a coach as well to be personal in business. So with that being said, before we get going, I do record all of my Tuesday live shows and I put them in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. I help coaches transition to a full-time business, starting from scratch, or whether you've been doing it for years, setting up the structures and the systems and the processes needed to create a successful business that produces income that more than pays for what your financial responsibilities are, and doing it in a way that's aligned with you. And a lot of the resources I offer right in my university at sellingcoaching.com. You can start off right on the homepage. If you enter your name and email, that's going to give you access to a great resource I have. It's an audio recording, and it's the first 3 vital steps to launching a successful coaching business. So you can get access to that there. That also puts you in my email community, so you can get a lot of great stuff on a weekly basis, and also understand how I communicate with my audience, so you can do the same with yours. And with that being said, I have a lot of other great resources there, one of which is my 14-day GoPro challenge. If you're watching this live, we are coming to the end of 2020, believe it or not. Well, we still got a little while, but not that much. I have one more challenge that I'm offering starting on October 27th. So if you want to join the last GoPro challenge of this year, visit GoProChallenge.com. You can learn more there. You can sign up and register. And if you're watching this recording afterwards, just visit GoProChallenge.com to find out when the next challenge is. If you're looking to participate in that phenomenal way to get you to market quick, understand your message, and follow up and get clients and learn the process of how to do all that. So important is the processes. But with that being said, today's topic is getting personal in business. And this is a topic, like you hear people say all the time. They'll say, there's nothing personal in business, or, don't mix personal and business. And generally speaking, it's hard to say what's right or wrong. But I'm talking to coaches, and I disagree with not being personal or bringing personal into your business in a coaching business from experience, and I'll share why today. And from that experience, I found that it's been very helpful for what we do. And those of you that have followed me or will follow me, I always bring myself to my business because it's me. And we've got to be able to find a way to share what we're going through in our lives in a kind of seamless way where it's not like all about us. Because at the end of the day, people don't care about us and what's going on with us. What they really care about is how we can help them. Now, ultimately, if they follow you long enough, or they work with you and they like you, they'll start to care about you. Like I have my people, like they care about me in a certain capacity with which they should care about someone that they're following, right? They like the person, like they'll like you, they'll follow you. There's something about you that they enjoy, right? They become your fans. But you have to find that blend of it, just like you're not always talking about you, the people that are out there that just always are talking about themselves, versus just finding the moments to share different pieces. And the pieces of it is that the value of it is starting to really recognize who you are as a person and what you value. And I'll just start off and I'll share something about me. And this is how this topic came up. Like every time I do my shows, I always choose my topics based on what's going on in the world, in my world, the coaching world, with my clients, with my group stuff, in general in the coaching world, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. I pull topics from everywhere, so it's fresh and it's relevant, for you, the listener, And this past week was a really big week for me. For the past 3 years, I have been wanting to be with my son more. I'm divorced. I left the home in 2013 and finally divorced in 2015. And when we separated and then ultimately got divorced, I was I had my son, it was just a horrible schedule. And at the end of the day, I saw him, maybe a couple days a week and then like very small amounts. And there got to a certain point about 3 years ago where I'm like, this isn't right. I want to be with him more. And I wanted to have some good chunk of time with him, and I want him half the time. And that didn't go over well on the other side. And so literally for the past 3 years, I've been in court, and those of you that have gone through anything legal and lawyers, not only is this expensive, but it's long and it's frustrating and it sucks. And especially when you're going after something that you really believe in, not just for yourself, but for the benefit of your child, and not only that, and the child wanting it as well. And so I've gone through this the past 3 years, and last week, I don't even remember the date. It was like, I think it was like actually October 9th. Everything was done. Like we finalized everything. I got everything I was looking for. And it was like, I got to tell you, like it was crazy because I was waiting to hear back from my lawyer. The judge was coming back with a decision. And while I felt confident about what getting, all the things we wanted, it was still nerve-wracking because it's ultimately up to a judge. And honestly, that's why I went through the legal system in the first place, because obviously between my ex and I, we weren't agreeing. So I said that we're not getting anywhere, and I believe in what I believe in so much that I feel compelled to do this. And it was such a long journey. It was so hard. And it wasn't even about the expense. Like the expense was stupid. It was ridiculous. But it was about something so much bigger than that as a father and as a son. And everything worked out. And it's over. I hope it's over, right? But for right now, that's over. And it was amazing. And it was amazing how much I was carrying, how much anxiety and frustration and angst and it didn't affect me in what I did. Obviously, like I love what I do here. And it didn't affect me in terms of how I show up. Well, it always does in some capacities that you never know, but I always showed up and I always gave my all, and I was always passionate and excited about what I did here. And in some ways, what I do here is a stress relief because I love it so much. But when I got the email from my lawyer saying like, it's over, we got it, everything's done, it was really releasing, and it was funny because like it was literally in between a couple coaching calls, and I had like 2 minutes, and like I just checked my email just to see if there's anything urgent that came up, and I saw the email from him, my lawyer, and it was just like, I just read the preview real quick. My heart rate shot through the roof, and it was just like, thumbs up, we got everything. And it was just like, I started to cry, like, and the next thing you know, my client's calling me, and I'm just like, they're like, how are you? And I'm like, I am freaking amazing. Like, and it was obviously the best day in a very long time. And, yeah, I just get emotional about it. And so I'm sharing this with you today because it's personal to me. And whether you care or not about what goes on there and all the details, I'm not sharing all the details, but it's something that's important for me and who I am and how I operate and what I value. And I'm sharing that with you because I understand that if we are going to have a working relationship, whether you ever hire me or not, some of you are already working with me, some of you may never work with me. It doesn't matter. But you consume my information. I've come to understand over the years that a big piece of you ultimately deciding even just to consume my information is who I am. And it's not just what I teach in terms of the education. Of course, that's got to be good. It's got to be relevant. You've got to connect with it. You've got to connect with the way I present it. But it's also it's got to come from the person and who they are and what they value and what they represent in life. And that's a big piece. And while it might not translate in other industries, like if you're selling cars, like the person doesn't need to know about you, to a certain level. We're actually buying a car right now. We're looking, for my girlfriend and but the people that do share a little bit, like, oh yeah, you do this, and you connect on a little personal level, right? There's a little personal there, and it helps. But as a coach, it's really important because people start to understand who you are and what you value, and that starts to build trust. When you start to understand where a person is coming from and their perspective in life, and again, not deep details, but enough to know, like I didn't tell you all about the last 3 years and all the minutia details, then it's too much. There's a certain thing called too much information, right? TMI. But when you share some of the pieces, your ups and your downs, of what you've gone through, and those of you that have been following me for years when I went through my divorce, when I had my knee surgeries, when I, met someone in a romantic relationship, when I broke up with someone and how it devastated me, and then when I met someone else, and stuff that's happened with my son along the way. And it's not so much that every time you're getting an email from me or every show I'm talking about is something, well, my son this, or my girlfriend this, or we're doing this. But it's just enough where you get to know me a little bit. And that's such an important component for you. And I'm not saying, oh, you have to do this. And, if you don't do this, you're not going to get business. I'm saying for those of you who want to, or considering it, or who have thought of it, then do it. Don't think twice about it. Don't think twice. You're the CEO of your business. And I want you to have a barometer on it. And, if people have ever told you in your life that, you talk too much about yourself, I don't know who was actually going to tell you that, right? Or if you have a barometer enough and you recognize that maybe sometimes I talk about myself too much, then be extra aware of it. However, share pieces of your world. Just pay attention to how much you're doing it. So in your emails, for example, if you're setting up a weekly email, which when you work with me, that's one of the things I set you up with, is we've got to have weekly email communications with your audience, stay top of mind, etc. If every email's about you and something you're going through or something in your world, or your son or your daughter or your significant other or whatever, then just comment a little bit. Like if every email I sent you was about my son, you'd be like, dude, what's up? Enough with your son. But if every fifth, sixth, or sixth email or whatever might top on that, if it's there, then great. You get to know a little bit about me and Dad. As long as you relate it back to the audience, that's the key. So whatever you share, always relate it back to your audience. Like today, I felt compelled to share what happened with me and with this legal thing with my son in the custody. And I have him half the time now, and I've joined physical custody, and it's the best freaking thing in the world. And I could not share that because I care about you. And I know those of you that are fans care about me in that certain way. And so I said, all right, I want to get on this Tuesday live show and just, hey, here's what I'm doing. And while some of you that follow me and know me and like me as a fan of mine might be like, okay, great. I said, well, how does this relate to them? How can I get on there and share this great news so they get to know me a little bit better, understand who I am, what makes me tick, that I go through hard times and exciting times as just like any other normal human being, and what I value as a dad and as a man. But also, how does this relate to you with your business? So that's what I want you to consider is if you do this, or if you're already doing that, always have a barometer on it. I always have a barometer on this in terms of how much I'm sharing. But I also want you to make sure when you share something, always relate it back to your customer, your potential client. So you're helping them. So they can get to know you. They can begin to like you. They can begin to celebrate with you and share your wins, mourn your losses. About a month ago, I lost my grandmother. She was 100 years old. And I shared that, right? And I got so many emails from you guys. It was powerful. It was amazing, the support in the community. People that I never even knew that were in my community emailed me. And I'm like, who are you? But they obviously follow me. They obviously like what I'm doing, and so they reached out, and so it's those pieces. It's the ebb and flow of life, and you're a human. And also as a coach, you don't have to be anything special. You don't have to have it all together. Everything in your life doesn't have to go fantastic all the time, because then you wouldn't be a human being. You'd be a robot. You'd be unreal. You'd be unattainable. You'd be unrelatable. And that's oftentimes what happens and with business, sometimes even some of the big marketers out there, you see the ones that are doing really well and that are really big, sometimes you can't relate with them because it seems like everything's going perfect. It seems like everything's going well. On top of that, you look at their website, you look at the videos they do, you look at everything in the production value, and it's so unattainable and it's so big, and they're talking about numbers and multiple six figures a month. And you're just like, oh, I just want to get my first freaking coaching client. And I'm afraid to charge more than, $50 a session. You know what I mean? And so like in the way I present myself with my business, like, yeah, if you go to sellingcoaching.com, hopefully it's professional. Hopefully I take pride in the quality in which I do things. You take my GoPro challenge, like I feel it's top notch. It's done well. But I also do things at, I feel, an achievable level. Like the production, I'm doing a live broadcast on Facebook right now, I mean, sometimes I might wear a collared shirt. Today I have on my, I don't know, American Eagle shirt, you know what I mean? And yeah, like maybe my lighting's cool and I've got a good microphone and a camera, of course, right? But at the end of the day, like it's achievable. I don't have a $10,000 setup, like my lighting and camera and setup is probably a couple $100. You know what I mean? $300 at the most with everything all in. It's not like, oh my God. And it's just like I do some editing myself and I put it out there, and it's good. It's high quality, but it's not unattainable. And that's what I want. I do all those things purposely. Could I go to that next level and produce it professionally? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you know what? Then there's extra costs. There's things that you don't need to do. So the whole point is I want you to be relatable. And when you're personal and when you share things and you get personal in business, you can be relatable. And when you're relatable, people want to work with you because you're real. And you're not like, whoa, everything's great and I'm awesome and I'm fit and I'm happy and I'm rich and I'm this. It's like, you know what? I mean, you've got to show that side of you. And it also makes it easier for us as coaches, because when it comes to our weekly education or the weekly communication that we're doing with our audience, I don't care what kind of model you're using, you've got to communicate with your audience on a weekly basis in some form, at least a written form in an email, social media communication with any following you have there, and or ideally, especially we're now in a very virtual world, some type of video broadcast recording, because how else are they going to get to know you? How else? And so that is a vital, vital piece. And when you share that, they get to know you, which is a huge factor ultimately in the deciding if they're going to work with you or not, because they know who you are as a person. And that's my main message to you today is don't second guess it. Show up with who you are. And like I was finishing up my thought is it allows you your content and your communication on a weekly basis to be more authentic and real. And if you're down or you're frustrated or sad or any what we might call a negative emotion, negative emotions are great because they can propel us into positive results if we choose that way. But when you're in that space, just show up there. It's okay. You're having a frustrating day. Just share a few things, vent a little bit, and relate it back to your audience. People are going to like it because that's what they go through, and it's real and it's authentic, and you can't do better than that. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Hopefully you can get a feel for what it's like, because I'm doing it today, getting personal. And I think the last thing I'll share before I sign off is the simple fact that while you want to get personal in business, don't take anything personally in business. I will say that. And what I mean by that is when people don't hire you or move forward and don't respond, unsubscribe from your email list, any of those things, don't show up for sessions, drop out after they've hired you, any of that stuff, don't take it personally, because that's not about you at all. And sometimes because our business is so personal and because we're selling ourselves in some ways, we're selling our message, and that becomes our brand and how we present it. It's a really big piece of it. Sometimes it's hard not to take it personally, especially when we're being personal in business, like I'm saying and sharing that I recommend you do. That's a skill, I believe, that you develop over time, like a muscle, not taking it personally and recognizing that this has nothing to do with me. like you don't know what that person's going through. So just that because they're not responding back, or they drop off or fall off the face of the earth or join witness protection or whatever, there's nothing to do with you. And when you have that, you continue forward and you do your business the way it should be done, and you invest your time and energy in the people who deserve your time.